I now have the honor to introduce the recipient of the Aleph Institute Champion of Hope Award, Benjamin Brafman. Ben, as you all know, is an internationally renowned lawyer and the principal partner of Branfman Associates. But that does not tell you the true measure of the man. Tonight, Aleph is honoring Ben for his unrelenting advocacy on behalf of those in greatest need who have been discarded by society. We are honoring you, Ben, for your partnership with Aleph and your great vision. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Benjamin Brafman. The Champion of Hope Award presented to Mr. Benjamin Brafman with admiration and esteem for your unrelenting public advocacy on behalf of justice, Israel, and the Jewish community, and your partnership with the Aleph Institute. The Aleph Institute Heroes of Hope Gala, 20 September 2015, Los Angeles, California.
I was in LA several weeks ago and I delivered a keynote address on behalf of Aish. There were 1,000 people there. Were any of the people in this room there? I can't use that speech. It was a very good speech. And if you haven't seen it, and if you Google Aish, LA, I promise you, it's probably one of the better speeches that I think I've ever given in my life, and I'm very proud of it. And I thought to myself, how do you top that? How do you come out to LA again before many of the same people and give a better speech than you gave at Aish? And I decided that you can't do that. It's just not going to happen twice in a lifetime to hit that kind of a home run, so I'm going to give a different speech. And I'm going to speak to you from my heart, because that's what Aleph does. It speaks from its heart. And I'm going to speak to you with the benefit of having grown up next door to Lubavitcher Rebbe. So I grew up with the Rebbe as a friend. He would smile, I would say, how are you, Rebbe? And it never occurred to me that he was such an extraordinary man, because I saw him every day as a neighbor. And then when my brother and I were making career choices, and then I said, Rebbe, what should I do? He said, become a criminal lawyer. But I want to tell you why I'm here. And I'm sorry that Mr. Penn had to leave, although I understand. Quite frankly, he stayed a very long time. He is a true hero, and what he did is extraordinary. I asked him at the reception what I thought his best film was, and he didn't want to tell me or didn't want to say, and I think this was his best film. I think if he makes films for the next 25 years, he will never find a plot like this, where he is a true personification of the righteous Gentile in our generation, saved a Jew, and nothing in it for him other than getting a piece of glass at a dinner. It was a man who was, in my opinion, going to die in the jail he was in. He did not belong there. He belonged somewhere else, closer to his family, surrounded by humanity, surrounded by other Jews. And I could not get him transferred. And I want to tell you a true story, and then I want to go back to the mission of Aleph, and I'm going to do it very quickly. I wrote a speech, I'm not going to give it. I'm going to talk to you straight from the heart. I have notes, but it doesn't need to be said now. It's a true story. I very active in Israel cancer research, and we host a dinner every year at the Pierre or at the Plaza, and we honor people. And one year the honoree was the world-renowned oncologist, one of the best cancer specialists in the world, and we gave him an award for his research, and he had developed a new drug that was treating millions of people and prolonging their productive lives. And I gave him the award, and then we sat down. We were seated next to each other. He turns to me and he says, "You're Ben Brafman." I said, "Yep." He said, "I've wanted to meet you for a very long time." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because we have so much in common." I says, "What do we have in common? You're an oncologist, and I'm a criminal lawyer." He said, "Nobody is ever happy to meet me, and no one's ever happy to meet you." And I said to him, you know, it's an interesting observation, but I'll tell you why we really don't have a lot in common. When you lose, they die. When I lose, I get letters for 20 years. When you lose, the family hugs you and kisses you and thanks you. When I lose, I'm dealing with a spouse who has never worked and is suddenly without her income, her support, children who lose their father. They don't thank me. They turn to me in desperation. They don't know what to do. So we have a lot in common. But you operate in a dark room with only your closest and most trusted associates in there. I operate in a public venue. When you lose, they thank God for everything you've done. When I lose, they look for another lawyer who can criticize what I did wrong in order to hopefully straighten it out. So we don't really have a lot in common. And when I lose, I'm alone. There is no constituency for criminal defense lawyers unless you need one. Then suddenly I'm a very, very important person. But until you need one, or until somebody you love needs one, I'm the person who keeps the criminal justice system from working properly. And it's just not true, because many, many good people screw up. The jails are filled with bad people, but there are also a lot of very good people who are there. And they're there for regulatory offenses. They're there for years. And they're basically alone. And the other thing you don't deal with, doctor, is you don't deal with humiliation. No one blames you when you get cancer. No one abandons you when you get sick. Your community doesn't shun you. They support you. The family draws closer. The community draws closer. You become a headline, and you are a pariah. I'm the only person who you have who really wants to talk to you. So, doctor, I appreciate the sentiment, but trust me, your job is wonderful and important, but my job is harder. And my job becomes easier only because every once in a while, a miracle happens, and you meet a person like Tzvi Boyarsky, and he saved a life. And it's not just one. I know 20 stories of lives he saved. And it's not just Mr. Ostreicher. There are 50, 75, 100 Ostreichers. And Aleph does it. And Aleph is there when you call them. And they never say no. They're not always successful, but their effort is extraordinary. And there's no agenda. There's nothing in it for them except the mitzvah. They believe in this mission. They believe in what the Rebbe told them their mission was, that no one should feel alone. And you have never been alone until you have been in the bowels of a prison talking to someone who's a fundamentally decent man or woman who've been stripped of their dignity, their family, their community, their faith, and they have nothing. And then when Aleph shows up and gets them a menorah, and Aleph shows up and gets them matzah, or Aleph shows up and just says, hello, we're here, and Aleph sends their kids to camp, and Aleph takes their spouses and trains them and gives them jobs and gives them mortgages and gives them rent. It's amazing the breadth of this mitzvah. We see the corrupt person who's been convicted of a crime and is incarcerated, and unless we know them, many of us turn the page and never for 1 minute give a thought to what they are going through. Never for 1 minute give a thought to what their family is going through. And not for 1 minute do we worry about their dignity. And Aleph does. Aleph restores their humanity. So, there are a couple of, this is a heavy-duty time of the year, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I'm not a complete Amaretz. But my son, tells me things, and sometimes they resonate. And if you look in the Rosh Hashanah davening, there is a prayer that we say that until this year I never read the English translation of. And it begins, it's a small paragraph. It begins, Ochila. And what we ask for and pray for and thank Hashem for is the power of speech. The power of speech is very important to Klal Yisrael, because right now we need outspoken advocates because we're alone. Aleph tells me every couple of days that I'm not out there alone, and that Jews who are in the military, far away, in dangerous areas that nobody will get to and nobody will care about, Aleph gets there. Aleph goes to prisons that you have to fly into a town, you have to rent a car, and you have to pray that you can find them, because nobody wants a prison near their home. So they're built in outlying areas, away from civilization, away from major airports. It's a royal pain in the neck to visit these places, and they do it, and they don't get paid for it. And the people who go there are either volunteers or they're people like Rabbi Boyarsky who feel that they have been given this mission from Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, the great Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they believe it. And it's because of that faith that gets them to perform the mitzvah of never letting anyone be forgotten and never letting anyone feel alone. And me, in the work I do better than probably most of you, I get it because I sense the loneliness. And someone said to me, what makes you different as a criminal defense lawyer? And I said, I think I have passion for my work. There's a human being in the mix, and Aleph never forgets that. There's a human being in the mix. Last year they sent 85 children to summer camp whose father or mother were incarcerated. Now, it's 85. It's not a million. But it's 85 kids who were able to be a kid again with a summer in the country surrounded by other kids from not their community who doesn't judge them, who doesn't ridicule them, who don't make fun of them, who don't criticize them, who don't make comments behind their back. That's a gift of life to a child that's priceless. We pledge money here tonight, and all of you are very generous. Your first job was to show up. You did it. Now there's a second part. This is an expensive operation to run because the costs involved are really not covered by the people who are being helped. There's no buy-in. Most of these people are left penniless. And the people who were once successful white-collar individuals, they're even more unfortunate because their families generally don't qualify for public assistance, and the government, God bless the United States, takes everything they have in the form of forfeiture, so the families are left destitute. And suddenly, for the first time in the spouse's life, he or she is left to fend with the family of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 children, all alone. And you know what? You need an Aleph. You need an Aleph. So we are now approaching Yom Kippur. And in Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur, we say that charity, tefillah, charity, and tzedakah, tshuva, and charity can reverse a bad judgment. Right now, each of us, you and me and everyone in this room, is being judged prior to Yom Kippur. And our rabbis tell us that if you pray hard, and if you repent, and if you give charity, you have the ability to change your judgment. That if you were judged bad, and you do any of the 3 or all of the 3, and you do additional stuff now, you got a shot at reversing a pretty bad judgment. So take the shot. I'm not going to ask you to daven more, because some of you won't. I'm not going to ask you to say I'm sorry, because that sounds hollow. But you can give more money. And you can give more money to Aleph. And to the extent that you and I and all of us work in these different charities all over the world, they're all good charities. They're all good charities. But what Aleph does is unique unto itself. They're not competing with 20 other organizations who are supporting the same people. They do it, And generally speaking, nobody else does it, and they do it effectively. And you know why? Let me tell you why. Because they don't push. They are persistent but patient. They are persistent but respectful. They are persistent, but they play by the rules. And as a result, as strange as this may seem, the largest bureaucracy in the world, the United States Bureau of Prisons, has come to respect them. And as a result of the respect they earned, they succeed where others, regardless of your skill or your talent or your determination, fail. Because they look at Aleph as someone who's not an advocate. They don't have a vested interest. They're doing it as a mitzvah. And when you do something as a mitzvah, for humanitarian reasons, even non-Jews get it. Even non-Jews see that your heart is in the right place. So I appreciate the opportunity to come out here. I appreciate the award. I'm embarrassed, quite frankly, because I should be giving Aleph an award for the difference that they've made in my professional life. Thank you very much.